Good evening, everyone. Good evening, good evening. Not quite yet. The October 22nd, 2024 meeting of the Ways and Means Committee will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Barnhart. Ms. Barnhart is present. Mr. Baines. Mr. Baines is present. Ms. Bartholomew McCoy. Ms. Bartholomew McCoy is present. Mr. Brew.
Here.
Mr. Brew is present. Mr. Colby. Mr. Colby is present. Mr. Dondorfer. Mr. Dondorfer is present. Mr. Keller. Mr. Keller is present. Chairman Mafucci.
Here.
Chairman Mafucci is present. Ms. Smith. Ms. Smith is present. Ms. Vasquez Simmons. Ms. Vasquez Simmons is present. Mr. Udelson. Mr. Udelson is present.
Legislators, will you please stand as Legislator Steve Brew will now lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, for liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Legislator Brew. Are there any speakers signed up for the public forum?
There is not.
Would anybody else like to address the committee at this time? Okay, seeing none, the next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. You have the minutes from the September 24th, 2024 meeting before you. They will stand approved unless the clerk is notified of any changes by the end of the day. The next item on the agenda is new business. Mr. Clerk.
Referral 24-0316, enact a local law entitling authorizing a lease by negotiation with Smith Street Partners LLC for office space at 435 Smith Street, Rochester, New York.
Moved by Legislator Baines, seconded by Legislator Udelson. Is there any discussion? Yes. Legislator Baines.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What is the current rent that we're paying, aggregate rent on a yearly basis for the 4 locations we're currently, we're hoping to vacate?
Through the chair, the current rent that the Board of Elections is paying is about $454,000 if you aggregate all the spaces that we are renting.
Thank you. Through the chair, do we have any obligations on the leases once we leave, run-out obligations in terms of costs we'll have to incur to the people from whom we're currently renting?
Through the chair, if I'm understanding your question correctly, all of our leases will expire either at the same time we'll be moving into this new facility or at the end of next year. So we'll begin moving into the new facility in August when the new lease ends, and our current lease at the other space will end at the end of the year.
Mr. Chairman, to the administration. Yeah, my calculation is that we will now be paying rent of $650,000 per year for the new space. Is that correct?
Through the chair, that is correct.
And then by my calculation, after 20 years with a 2.7% escalator, our yearly rent will be over $1 million a year.
Through the chair, that is correct as well.
We have a duty to fit up this space that we're going to be renting for $600,000 and ultimately for over $1 million a year.
I'm sorry, through the chair, can you clarify the question of what you're looking for?
Make a long-term lease, commercial lease. Typically, the lessee fits up the space to accommodate its needs. That would involve creating workspaces, partitions, etc. Is there any cost to us to fit? That's kind of the term in the industry, I believe, to fit up the space.
Sure. Through the chair, that is not in the current lease that we are signing, that we would be signing.
So So this space will meet our needs precisely without any modifications.
Through the chair, they are doing some modifications already as part of the agreement, and there will be potentially some modifications down the line as we get into the space and once we start to utilize it and see what our needs are. I won't say that there will be nothing that we will do to this space, but it has a very large square footage, so it allows us to grow into it and will allow us to do any modifications we need to in the future.
You, Mr. Chairman, is the 57,785 square feet conditioned space?
Through the chair, yes, that is. That is a combination of office and warehouse space, and that does not include a $6,200 or 6,200 square foot mezzanine that we are not even paying. It's not included in the calculations either. So the total square footage space is actually 64,000 square feet.
Mr. Chairman, so the warehouse portion of the facility will be heated and cooled in the summer?
Through the chair, it is heated but not cooled.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chairman, we're investing a fortune in these new machines. Do these machines require storage in conditioned space, heated and cooled throughout the year?
Through the chair, they do not. The machines will be kept within the manufacturer recommended specs and the temperature. The company is well aware and is actually talking to the company that we would be leasing it from to ensure that all of our needs are met and they have no concerns so far.
You, Mr. Chairman, has the Board of Elections or the administration done a cost analysis of constructing our own facility to house the Board of Elections as opposed to paying rent? You know, again, by my calculation, we're paying, well, I can't add all these numbers up, but we start out at 650,000, we end up at $1 million, so it's probably averaging 800,000 a year. Over 20 years, it's about 16 million bucks. Have we taken a look at a cost analysis of constructing our own facility as opposed to renting from an LLC?
Through the chair, I would say that I do not believe we have done that. We have, however, looked at the current space we're renting and priced that out as if we were to stay there and then do the modifications we would need to have a comparable space. And the price per square foot, if we did that, was going to be $12.84. We're getting $11.24, which is only slightly higher than what we're paying right now. And everything that we've heard from everybody in real property says that that is a good price that we're getting.
Mr. Chair, but we don't have any comparison to what the 20-year cost would be and also the legacy cost, because after 20 years, we have the option of continuing to rent at $1 million a year, more than $1 million a year for 5 more years, or walking away. So I guess my question is would it be possible to do some analysis of what it would be to own our own facility and build it on our own land?
Through the chair, we are happy to talk to the real property department and if that is something that they think is feasible.
Chairman, anything that they could provide in terms of some thought process or analytics on that issue prior to our regular meeting, legislative meeting, I would appreciate. I yield.
Anyone else? Legislator Colby.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, does this facility have to be in the city of Rochester? Is that my understanding?
Through the chair, that is correct. Without a referendum, it does have to be in the city of Rochester.
So that has limited your ability to look to certain locations to get enough square footage. Your building has been limited to just the city, right?
Through the chair, that is correct. If we wanted to have any sort of residency outside the city, we would have still had to maintain a footprint in the city. So we were still going to be split either way unless we ran the referendum route, and then that would go to a vote. And if we passed that, then we could go anywhere. But
Thank you.
Anyone else? Legislator Barnhart. Okay, Legislator Baines, go ahead.
So through you to the Board of Elections, won't we continue to have a footprint with our office here in this building?
through the chair, if we move forward with the Smith Street, we would not have a footprint in the county office building any longer.
Through you, Mr. Chairman. Well, that leads to a lot of other questions. So how will the customer experience be accommodated at this new facility for the users of the Board of Elections who currently come into this facility and enter into the doors and interact? What will the parking be? What will the safety issues be? What will the security issues be? There's a whole host of questions about moving the office out of this building, aren't there?
Sure, yeah, through the chair. So if I can answer your questions, maybe out of order, but security, the facility is fully fenced in with a gated entrance that you would have to come up to and buzz in or use your badge to get in. We do anticipate hiring a security guard, very similar to what we have down here, full-time for when we're there. And the experience for the voter will be much better, in my opinion, and I don't think I'm alone in that the voter will not have to pay for parking. Parking will not be an issue. There's 62 parking spaces at this new facility, so I would argue that the experience for them would be much better.
Thank you.
Legislator Barnhart.
Request for an analysis on the cost of renting versus buying. And, you know, I just looked up while he was asking his questions, what 435, what the Smith Street Partners LLC paid for the property. They paid $4.4 million in January of this year. So they'll be making a lot of money on this, So I'm also interested in seeing that as well. I understand that property owners have to make a lot of investments and pay taxes and everything else. So I'm just very curious about that as well. So I just wanted to echo his question.
Anyone else? Legislator Vasquez-Simmons.
Announcement state taxes are up to date, yet New York records indicate corporation paperwork were filed late November 2023. They've only had Smith Street for such a short period of time, since January. I don't believe they've even filed taxes yet. Have we really done our due diligence with this 20-year commitment?
Through the chair, confirming with Real Property, they have ran tax searches through everybody.
Have they filed taxes?
We do a search on real property tax, not income tax.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, perhaps I need clarification on the statement that says taxes are up to date.
Yes, that is referring to real property tax.
Questions. Through you, Mr. Chair, what security is in place to protect the integrity of the voting machines, technology, and ballots from the public, roll staff, and other potential undesirable individuals that may impeach our democracy?
Sure. I believe a lot of those same practices are already in place because obviously we already have voting machines. There would be a locked facility. You can't get in without, all the doors will be badge accessed, or you'd come in the front door and you'd have to go to, a secretary and a security guard would be there and they'd, direct you in the right way. But that's kind of the same thing now, is that, the chain of custody is kept through the entire process. The facility's locked down. As I said, it's gated, so you can't even get into the parking lot without buzzing in. Obviously there might be future things and needs that we determine will be there once we know the space better if we get into it. But the chain of custody will only continue on and improve as far as that and security goes.
Several years back, we had an issue during an election that held results for several hours. What level of redundancy? As a redundancy plan, the technology that's being invested in, what we're paying for.
Yeah, I think I'll allow the question. I mean, this is a very interesting discussion. I have some follow-up questions as well, so.
I'm sorry. Through the chair, I don't know, did you finish your question? So
I
the
didn't get a
question,
chance
okay,
to.
go ahead.
So
Yeah.
the question is, has a technical analysis been done to ensure that there's redundancy built to eliminate any issues?
Through the chair, so we work directly with County IS, and they are constantly monitoring all security in and out. We have a closed server as well that our voter files are held on. We are always liaising with the New York State Board of Elections. So to answer your question, if a new survey has been done, I would say the answer is no, but we are doing that we're doing that yearly and always analyzing any potential risks and working closely with County IS. And I would say we lean on them in most of those areas as well because that's their department.
How many employees are scheduled to move into this new?
Through the chair, the Board of Elections has, I believe, approximately 47 employees, and all of our staff would be in one place at this new facility, which is part of the draw.
Any other questions? Legislator Dondover.
Thank you, sir. Through you to the administration, just a clarification question. In regards to Smith Street Partners LLC, their taxes are paid up year-to-date on this property and any other properties that they own. Is that my understanding of that?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? I have a couple quick questions. Excellent discussion, by the way. Very interesting. I will assume that they will pay property taxes on this property, correct?
Through the chair, that is correct. The owner would be paying the property tax.
Do we have any idea of how much they pay a year?
Through the chair, approximately 70,000.
Very interesting. So we'll be paying them rent, and they'll be paying property taxes, which kind of, I mean, it's not a complete wash, but it is a bit of a, it'd be an interesting piece of the discussion that we had a little earlier related to what is the total cost of this? Because if we actually own the building, there would be no taxes, correct?
Through the chair, I am relaying this information, obviously, but there would be taxes associated with that. Through the chair, I have some new information that says that there would be no taxes if the county owned it.
And actually, I'll ask a question that I kind of already know the answer to, but I think it's important for the public to hear this, that the fact that this is a private property that's paying property taxes, the actual tax base is growing. So there's tax base growth that helps taxpayers out as well. Correct? Correct. Thank you. Okay, so let's, yeah. Legislator Baines.
Through you, Mr. Chair, as a point of clarification, aren't they paying taxes on the facility now? Whether we rent from them or not? Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Although if they shut down, we don't know that. That's a good follow-up question. Okay, let's move on here. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, item carries. Next item.
Referral 24-0318, authorize the acquisition of easements and real property for the Taylor Road Bridge Replacement Project in the town of Mendon.
Moved by legislator Dondorfer, seconded by legislator Smith. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
I move that we consider the rest of the agenda as a whole, with the exception of the following items, numbers 337, 340, 342, and 343.
Moved by legislator Udelson, seconded by legislator Smith. Any discussion?
24-0337, 340, 342, and 343.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 24-0337, authorization to settle a lawsuit in New York State Supreme Court, Monroe County, index number E2017002429.
Moved by legislator Udelson, seconded by legislator Baines. Any discussion, although if we have discussion, we'd have to go into,
Starts to get specific, we would have to go into executive.
any discussion? By seeing none. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 24-0340, authorize a contract with Bonadio and Company LLP for independent auditing services of the County of Monroe's annual financial statements.
Moved by legislator Udelson, seconded by legislator Baines. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 24-0342, authorize beneficiary agreements with nonprofits pursuant to the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA.
Moved by legislator Udelson, seconded by legislator Baines. Any discussion? Legislator Smith.
Mr. Chairman, it is our conference and my belief that the funding should be public funds go to nonprofits. They should focus on providing essential services like housing, food, and job training, just like so many in this referral does. This nonprofit funding was intended to help organizations under the Bring Back Monroe ARPA agenda. Metro Justice does not meet any of the criteria for Bring Back Monroe. There are many other local nonprofits that are aligned with these goals. We should prioritize funding groups that offer direct services and have a clear and measurable impact on residents' lives. We must protect the integrity of the nonprofit funding, ensuring that it goes to organizations that truly benefit the entire community and all members of this community, rather than a select few partisans of certain viewpoints. Therefore, I make a motion to amend and strike out Metro Justice of Rochester from this referral.
Item moved by legislator Smith, seconded by legislator Colby. Seconded by everyone. Any discussion? Legislator Udelson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, I will say that when I looked at this list, this is by way of explaining my vote, when I looked at this list, it did strike me that this out as one that doesn't really deliver direct services. I know they're given that the amendment is just being brought up now and I haven't really had a chance to consider it fully, I will vote in favor, vote against the amendment, but reserve the right to vote differently come the full legislature.
Any other discussion? Legislator Baines?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, did the individual from the administration or the group that reviewed these use the same criteria to determine whether or not the individual applicants met the standard for receiving the funds?
Through the chair, I'm not sure I understand your question.
In other words, this $6 million is being dispersed based on applications and paperwork submitted to us, requests for funding. Did those who screened and approved these funds use the same criteria and standard for each determination?
Through the chair, yes.
What would be the most pertinent qualification or, if you will, commitment being made by the organization that we would be looking for to approve them?
Through the chair.
Through the chair.
Through the chair, the eligibility requirement was set forth in the request for qualifications. I would say the most prominent of which has to be that they were operating within a qualified census tract. They had to be a not-for-profit corporation, and at least 51% of their operations had to serve individuals living within a qualified census tract in Monroe County.
So in the case of this particular motion, can the administration share with us at this moment or prior to our full-fledged meeting what it is that Metro Justice said they were doing to fulfill the 51% requirement to which you refer, through the chair?
Through the chair, the application required an affidavit to be submitted as part of the application process that at least 51% of their operations took place in a qualified census tract.
Through you, Mr. Chair, so that it actually did not specify the qualitative aspect of the work. In other words, they didn't have to do one type of work or another type of work. They simply had to provide services. So you weren't making judgments about whether or not they were serving certain populations, et cetera, other than what you've shared with us this evening, which is that they're in the census tract and it's 51% of their work.
Through the chair, it was a qualifications-based request, yes.
I'd like to explain my vote. It's hard to take a document like this and take one thing out without questioning every single aspect of the document. It basically is saying that there was no standard, and I don't believe that that possibly could be the case. So I will be voting against the amendment, but I would also be interested in knowing a little bit more about what that affidavit looked like from Metro Justice prior to our legislative meeting. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Legislator Barnhart.
All right, thank you. Through the chair to the administration, call the selection process for these nonprofits objective. If they met the requirements, they got in. Requirements had nothing to do with the type provided. They had to have 990s for a certain number of years. They had to be located in a qualified census tract. Right? I mean, you didn't look at what they did, just where they did it.
Through the chair, yes.
I'm just going to explain my vote. I understood that when I voted for this ARPA package. I understood that because I believe I asked the question or someone else did, and it was explained that if a nonprofit met this criteria, they were getting funds. And I don't believe I said it in the meeting, but I definitely said it on social media that I had concerns about the way this was set up, because I knew this very thing would happen, that a list would come out and there would be nonprofits that do things that people might not like, or services that they don't approve of or don't think should qualify. We never said it should be just human services or just youth services. We never said that. So I voted for it the way it was. I'm comfortable with this list, although after we vote on the amendment, I do have some other questions about it. So I'm voting no. I understood what the deal was, and we can't change the rules now.
Legislator Colby, then Legislator Dondover.
Through Mr. Chairman, can you tell me what type of services that Metro Justice has provided to anybody?
Through the chair, as was noted during the July committee meetings, these funds will be available for operating expenses or programs at the eligible entity's discretion. We are not asking for program or services to be provided as in accordance with the U.S. Treasury for assistance to not-for-profit corporations.
Legislator Dondover.
Thank you, sir. Through you to the administration. So in theory, can these funds that we're allocating to them be being used as reimbursement to them for the attack ads that they put on this legislative body over the summer?
Through the chair, as a blanket statement, federal funds cannot be used for lobbying.
How do we know that?
Right, so through the chair to the administration, having run a campaign or two myself, $5,992.80 kind of sounds like a mail piece to me. Is there any way that we can ensure that this, we're not reimbursing them for attacking us for their displeasure with us in the RG&E?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, as it was said previously, part of the RFQ or the request for responses left quite a bit of flexibility in terms of how organizations use these monies and what they do with them. I guess I would also say along this lines, as we went through this process, we just used the criteria that there was, and we knew that the ultimate authority of what was approved and authorized would rest with this body. So I guess I would leave it at that. We followed the guidelines, and we sort of knew going into this that that's why we were comfortable with this system, because the ultimate decision rests with the 29 legislators.
You have the floor.
Legislator Smith.
Thank you. Through the chair to the administration. Does this list compile everyone that submitted information for this money?
Through the chair, this list is the,
Excuse me one second. Shouldn't we wait till, that really doesn't have anything to do with the amendment.
Okay.
I mean, I think we should get the amendment out of the way, and then you'll be the first one I'll call on. Yeah, Legislator Barnhart.
Point of clarification on the question Legislator Dondorfer asked about Metro Justice. Metro Justice is a 501c4, which is allowed to do significant political, not the same as a 501c3, which is activity. It can.
Sounds like it. I know. Any other questions, comments? Legislator Brew.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through to the administration, I look at the list of distributed funds, and out of the 29 recipients, the only one that really stands out is potentially unworthy would be Metro Justice. And it just seems to me something is wrong with the process when you simply have to check a box, and that there is no human thought or community-based worthiness that goes into the selection process. Now, I got to believe that, during our first, second, third rounds of ARPA funding, there were some decisions that were made based upon the type of services, and they really didn't fit the box. It's just difficult for me to understand that, okay, they do reside in a qualified census tract, check the box. They're not for profit, check the box. The services they provide are for a majority of services are provided in the distressed areas. I just don't think that a mechanical decision-making element is in order for these type of funds. And I would ask all my legislative colleagues to consider this, if not approving the amendment that's in front of you right now, to seriously consider changing your viewpoint on this at our full legislative meeting. Thank you. I guess I could probably cast that or consider this as my explaining my vote on the amendment, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other comments?
If
Senator Baines.
the decision rests with us, would it be possible for us to review, then come in and see the applications?
Through the chair, yes, applications are always available for legislators to come in to review.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Roll call vote on the amendment. Yes. Legislator Roman. President Roman.
Okay.
A point of order. We are currently in committees. It's my understanding that committees serve to vote up and down legislation. This is an amendment to strike an organization. I'd like to know through the parliamentarian or through legal if this is an act that should be occurring at this point in time. I don't have any other paperwork in front of me besides this amendment, so I just want to make sure. An act that the committee should be engaging in at this time.
Oh, it doesn't work?
Oh, it might be on.
Hello? Okay, so on another matter, actually, we discussed whether or not items can be amended or in committees, and it depends on basically whether it's a referral or a resolution. A referral is an introductory letter. A resolution is a legal document. It is not, both Robert's rules and our charter are silent on this question. However, as a matter of past practice, this body has in fact had the understanding that you cannot amend a referral because it's a letter and not an actual legal document. Looking at what I have in front of me right now, and so I'm going to rely upon the clerk to identify if this is correct. What this has in front of me is a referral letter, and then below it an attachment lists out, oh, I'm scrolling down here, lists out one Exhibit A, which would indicate to me that this is in fact not a resolution, it is a referral. But am I correct that that's what's been submitted to this committee?
Technically speaking, yes.
And I would actually like to hear from the legal department to make sure I'm reading that right.
To the chair and the parliamentarian, I would agree with Parliamentarian Baroth's summary there that I think the past practice of this body is you can't amend a referral letter. Yeah, I guess that's where I would really leave it. It makes me concerned what exactly are we amending. So I don't see how that can be done by this committee right now.
But indicating to the point of order, because I did not look at whether or not there's actual resolution attached, that actually the amendment in and of itself would be out of order for that reason. It could, however, be introduced in the full ledge, of course, because there we have the actual resolution in front of us, if that makes sense to the body. That'd be my feedback to the chair, and the chair would actually have to rule on that.
Yeah, actually, I'm comfortable with having this go to the full ledge. I think that's where it really should go. I'll give you some leeway,
Yeah,
Legislator Barnett, go ahead.
Yes, through the chair to the administration, this isn't the first time this has come up, and I'm just curious as to why we don't get the resolution in the packet. It seems like committees are a place where we workshop legislation, and in some cases, if we can't amend, something might not go forward that people want to go forward. So how do we change that? Can we change that? I'm just curious.
Through the chair, I think we could all agree that the rules of the legislature could probably use some clarification on this point.
Hence the need for a charter review, correct? Yes. So where are we?
Well, did you rule on the point of order?
I think we need to discuss this further. Legislator
Do you
Smith.
mind? Thank
Go
you.
right ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Robert's Rules of Order, the 12th edition, states, when a committee reports back a resolution or paper with amendments, that is, proposes the amendment at least should be in writing unless they are very simple. So,
Give a citation page.
yes, 5147. It states that we can offer amendments during the committees.
The page you just cited, it states a resolution, and we have just stated that this is in fact not a resolution.
Or it says, reports back a resolution or paper.
Attached paper.
Yeah.
Well, as a matter of past practice, we have not done that. If this body determines it wishes to do differently moving forward, that's something it needs to determine to do. However, if you're asking for my ruling based on what we have done, I have to say, we don't do that. But it's up, we can always do things differently if the chair suggests, but that would change our past practice, and that's not what I can rule on. And I personally would say just attached piece of paper does not mean, it doesn't indicate to me what it is exactly, and so I would be hesitant to rely upon that. But I'm relying upon past practice here, which is, it's just what we've done in the past. There's no justification for it other than that.
To the chair.
Legislators Smith?
Yes, thank you. To the chair, can we take a roll call vote on the amendment and just see what happens?
I guess I would ask the parliamentarian, is the
Because the
amendment
motion
out
is
of-
on the floor.
Okay, hold on.
Is the amendment out of order?
According to me, yes, you have to rule it as such. It's
You're-
your decision.
You're telling me that, as the parliamentarian,
Yes,
it's out of order?
correct.
Okay, therefore, it's out of order.
So that means there's no amendment on the floor, and now we're back to the main motion.
Correct.
The chair. Which you can do.
Okay.
That's roll call.
Okay, roll call vote.
But to appeal the ruling of the chair.
Appeal the ruling of the chair. I just want to make sure we're doing this the proper way. Yeah, we'll get to that.
Is there a second on the appeal?
Second.
Legislator Dondorfer?
So we are,
Yes sustains the rule of the chair. Ms. Barnhart? Barnhart votes yes. Mr. Baines? Mr. Baines votes yes. Ms. Bartholomew McCoy? Ms. Bartholomew McCoy votes yes. Mr. Brew?
No.
Mr. Brew votes no. Mr. Colby? Mr. Colby votes no. Mr. Dondorfer? Mr. Dondorfer votes no. Mr. Keller? Mr. Keller votes no. Ms. Smith? Smith votes no. Ms. Vasquez Simmons? Ms. Vasquez Simmons votes yes. Mr. Udelson? Mr. Udelson votes yes. Chairman Mafucci?
yes.
Chairman Mafucci votes yes. President Roman? Are you? Okay. 6-5, the appeal of the chair is sustained. Or, I'm sorry, the rule of the chair is sustained.
All righty, so we're back to the
Back to the main motion.
motion. Any other discussion? Legislator Smith, go right ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I make a motion to sever. With the unfortunate results of the previous motion, I rise to make a motion to sever Metro Justice from the rest of the package presented in the referrals to allow for a separate vote. Since my colleagues do not support removing Metro Justice, they should at least support the severing motion to allow members of the committee to have their opinions heard and votes recorded on their record. Therefore, I make a motion to sever Metro Justice of Rochester from the package for the purpose of a separate vote.
Okay, so we have a motion. We have a second. We have a second.
Legislator Colby?
Yes. I'm going to defer right now to the parliamentarian.
For the same reasons as before, that amendment is out of order because, again, there's not a resolution in front of us, it's just a referral. You
This
cannot.
is not a motion, or this is a motion to sever, though. It was
Right,
not an amendment.
I understand, but for the same thing, there's nothing to sever because we just have the referral in front of us, not the actual legal document, the resolution. So it's out of order for the same reason as the previous amendment was.
So I will rule it out of order, and
Invite us prior to a committee meeting so that we could possibly avoid this in the future?
So out of order. Back to the main, back to, you guys are, I'm a rookie. You're really testing me here. This is okay.
Don't go over the item. You wanted to bring something up.
Right, so we're back to the main motion.
Right.
Legislator Dondover, you have a question?
I do have a question, sir. Through you to the administration or the law department, can we get those resolutions prior to committee meetings next time, so perhaps we can avoid some of this?
Through the chair, I don't think that answers the question of whether you can amend in committee. To the prior point, I think the answer is for the legislature to clarify its rules, which, to Chairman Mafucci's point, does not in fact involve the charter, and the rules of the legislature are a simple continuing resolution of the legislature.
Thank you.
Thank you. Back to the main motion, correct?
Still there, yeah. Main motion.
Okay, we, roll call vote.
Oh, no.
Oh, Legislator Barnhart. Yeah, go right ahead, sorry about that.
We're talking about the main motion now, we can ask questions about.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. The chair to the administration, I'm curious about, there are 30 organizations on this list. I'm curious how many nonprofits applied for the funding.
Through the chair, 56 organizations applied.
I know that the county issued a press release. Many elected officials, including the application on their websites and social media. I'm wondering, was there any other proactive outreach to nonprofits in distressed census tracts to encourage them to apply?
Through the chair, in a concurrence with our typical procurement requirements, the Department of Purchasing did send out the RFQ when it was issued to potentially responsive parties, including agencies that were part of the NCP, as well as community stakeholders and conveners who would help amplify the message that this funding was available, including the Council of Agency Executives, the United Way, the Greater Rochester Chamber of Commerce, the Rochester Area Community Foundation. So yes, the Department of Purchasing, in accordance with its typical practice, did send out notice that this RFQ is available. And I believe legislators were also notified, and they also were help amplify the availability of these funds.
That is helpful. Chair to the administration, did Father Tracy, Cameron, and Swan apply for this funding? If they did not, do you have any insight into why not? Were they told not to apply, for example?
Through the chair, Father Tracy and Cameron did not apply. Swan did apply, but the selection committee determined that under the ARPA rules, Monroe County as the recipient has compliance and monitoring obligations, and to award ARPA funds to an agency that has an alleged misuse of other ARPA funds, it was determined was not in compliance with the ARPA rules.
I just have two other questions, and I'm going to preface it by saying the last time we voted on ARPA funding, we did allow broader questions on the program, so I'm hoping, Chairman, you will allow me just these two questions to ask about the broader program and where it stands right now.
So I just want to clarify, you're going to ask a question about this referral or something else?
About the ARPA program, which is what
I think we're going to stick to this referral for now.
What we did, well, okay. Here's how I'm going to word it then. Through the chair to the administration, piggybacking off of what county attorneys just said. Swan has been referred to the state attorney general per the report. Have you also been in touch with federal authorities, and have federal authorities communicated to anyone in Monroe County outside of normal reporting regarding what has occurred with the ARPA program to date?
Through the chair, as the county executive said at his press conference last week, we did notify the FBI and the Treasury Department of OPI's findings in addition to notifying the New York Attorney General.
I just have one other question. Is this the last, through the chair to the administration? We are voting, we're going to vote on this in November. We're running up at the end of the year. Is this the last referral that we're going to see related to ARPA between now and the rest of the year?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I do not believe this is the last referral.
Chair to the administration, are we still talking about cure violence and the newborn visit programs potentially being the last two things, or are there other things as well?
Through the chair, the U.S. Treasury issued candidly frequently asked questions is the legal framework that U.S. Treasury is working on given the impending deadlines for obligation. In the latest round of the frequently asked questions, they noted that they are not issuing a final rule to the interim final rule they promulgated in October, and instead are using the frequently asked questions as the standing rules. Through those frequently asked questions, they clarified that a municipality can enter into an interagency agreement to obligate funds in accordance with the U.S. Treasury to meet the obligation deadline, and under a resolution from 2023, the cure violence and the maternal health will be part of an interagency agreement with the Department of Public Health that will then satisfy the obligation requirements under the U.S. Treasury. Department of Public Health will then go through the procurement process and come to the legislature for authorization, just like any other DPH contract. It will not be treated differently just because it's under that obligation contract between the county executive and DPH. However, that is how we are going to satisfy the cure violence and the maternal health project that was approved by the legislature to be performed by the Department of Public Health.
I would just like to explain my vote. This list is a list of fine organizations. I'm happy to vote yes to provide them funding. I would note that it's a short list. There are a lot more nonprofits serving in our distress census tracts that would have met, I think, the criteria that a lot of legislators had in their minds about what they wanted to accomplish. So I'm a little disappointed that more organizations didn't apply and weren't awarded funds. That said, I am aware that the county did do extensive vetting of the organizations, asked for a lot of documents prior to approval. So I'm voting yes, and
Thank you. Legislator Baines.
What was the main distinction made between the different organizations in terms of the size of the award or the scale? For instance, just picking the Bavona Child Advocacy Center, their award is $140,000, and we'll just pick one of the ones up at the top. I think there are 5 of them. Any one of the 5 at the top where they're splitting a few $1 million, getting $514,000 each. Speak about how the splitting of the money was done, please, through you, Mr. Chairman.
Through the chair, as set forth in the request for qualifications, the amount of the awards was dependent upon aggregating all of the salary lines that were reported in line 15 of the 990, and I believe it's line 12 of the 990 EZ. All of those salaries were aggregated. That amount was then divided by $6 million. The resulting calculation, and I'll backtrack a bit, part of the ARPA requirements allow recipients to provide assistance to not-for-profit organizations. However, still that assistance has to be related to and reasonably proportioned to address the disproportionate impacts of COVID-19. The selection committee, upon seeing the disparity of awards between larger organizations and smaller organizations, made the determination that the larger organizations, in order to remain in compliance for proportional and reasonable impact, determined to set the salary line at $8 million. That's further explained in the referral letter that's before you. So the higher organizations you see, their salary lines actually far exceeded the average for the not-for-profit organizations. For example, and forgive me, this is a bit off the top of my head, I believe Catholic Charities organization, their salary was about $45 million. So that would have been a grossly disproportionate amount of these ARPA funds going to just one organization. That's why the selection committee decided that in order to be in accordance with their ARPA requirements, to have a proportional impact and response, the highest entities that you see at the top of the list, those were treated as if they have a salary cap of $8 million. And then the award was calculated using an $8 million salary for those larger larger organizations. That aggregate salary was then, that $6 million was divided into the aggregate salary that then came up with a percentage, which was 6.347%. And then each organization got 6.374% of their salary line.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chairman.
Through the chair, as agreed to with the legislature, it was Legislator Burgess, Legislator Smith, Deputy County Executive McCann, and Rebecca Keiko, who's the ARPA team leader.
Thank you.
Legislator Barnard.
And it's my understanding that nonprofit organizations that have to send in the postcard because they don't, to file their 990, meaning they don't do a detailed 990 because they don't get enough revenue, that they would not have been eligible for these funds. So you were really targeting nonprofits that were a certain size and that had been in existence for a certain amount of time. Is that correct?
Through the chair, there was a requirement to be in existence for a certain amount of time. They had to have a disproportionate impact due to COVID-19 and therefore had to have existed prior to 2019. So that is accurate. They did have to exist for a period of time. The decision was made that we needed a measurable quantitative measurement. And yes, that was used as a 990 or a 990 easy.
Any other discussion? Legislator Vasquez Simmons and then Legislator Brew.
Chair, could you provide the balance due left over after available ARPA funding after this project?
Through the chair.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, that amount is approximately 4.3 or 4.4 million.
Chair, Cameron and Father Tracy were vocal about expressing concerns about not meeting some community obligations. I'm concerned about that. Did they not apply for this because they were told they wouldn't qualify?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, no, we did not tell any organizations not to apply.
Legislator Brew.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Mafucci. Through you to the administration, would it be possible to obtain a list of those applicants for this particular RFP that did respond, that did meet the qualifications of being an ARPA recipient? I previously heard there were 50-some applications. There's 29 on this list.
Through the chair, all of the entities that were eligible are on this list.
Okay, thank you. I didn't realize that. So, I guess I'll go on to explain my vote. I hate to throw out the baby with the bathwater because, because of this one line item. And as insignificant as that amount is comparison to the $6 million, I just think that this was a mistake to support Metro Justice. And, I'm hoping in our full legislative meeting, we may be able to take the steps to actually modify the content of this particular letter, page, referral, whatever we're going to be calling it, that would enable us to remove that particular recipient and maybe advise administration to redirect those dollars to one of the other 28 very deserving agencies here. So I will be voting no.
Anyone else? Okay, I assume Legislator Colby.
I'd like to explain my vote. I guess I have a big issue with this one organization, but I will vote in favor of this in committee, reserve my judgment with hopes that we can come to some different resolution with the funds going to the one Metro Justice. But I will vote in favor of this with the idea that hopefully the full ledge will modify it at that time.
Any other comments? Roll call vote?
Roll call vote on the main motion. Ms. Barnhart. Barnhart votes yes. Mr. Baines. Mr. Baines votes yes. Ms. Bartholomew McCoy. Ms. Bartholomew McCoy votes yes. Mr. Brew.
No.
Mr. Brew votes no. Mr. Colby. Mr. Colby votes yes. Mr. Dondorfer. Mr. Dondorfer votes yes. Mr. Keller. Mr. Keller votes yes. Ms. Smith. Ms. Smith votes yes. Ms. Vasquez Simmons. Ms. Vasquez Simmons votes yes. Mr. Udelson. Mr. Udelson votes yes. Chairman Mafucci.
Yes.
Chairman Mafucci votes yes. 10-1, referral passes.
Next item.
Referral 24-0343, authorize a contract with Granicus, Inc. to provide multiple agenda and meeting management services for the Monroe County Legislature.
Moved by Legislator Bartholomew McCoy, seconded by Legislator Baines. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Are there any other matters to come before this committee? All right, seeing none, before I actually adjourn the meeting, I would like to thank the administration for their professionalism in handling all of this complicated stuff, and I'd like to thank this legislative body for their very professional discussion of these issues. Clearly, there were some differences of opinion. It's going to go to the legislature, full legislature, for a final dispensation. So thank you all for your professionalism. I sincerely appreciate it. There being no other matters, the October 22nd, 2024 meeting of the Ways and Means Committee stands adjourned. The next meeting of the Ways and Means Committee will be Thursday, December 5th, 2024.